So, hello.
Hi.
The first question that I've been asking everyone I've been doing these interviews with, like obviously everyone on this interview panel is Black or Blackness heritage. So the first question that I've been asking everyone, just because obviously it has been a really rough year for Black people, a rough couple of months for Black people. How are you is the first question I've been asking. Like, how are you mentally, physically, spiritually, just everything? How are you coping? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. There was a time where like everything going on social media was sort of bothering me, and there was sort of just other stuff going on before. This was just before August, I believe,
Mm,
so July, and I needed to take a social media detox. Because in general, I don't use social media like that so much. Whereas I'm looking at what's going on, but with everything going on, like protest wise and everything, I started using social media way more,
mhm.
and I'm just not used to taking in that much information as a lot of people. So I'm doing a lot better than how I was before.
Yeah. And was that because of the social media detox, or like now being back on social media, you're just approaching things differently to like consuming all that information? Like what's helped you feel like do better than you were doing before?
It's a bit of both. Trying not to consume so much, traumatic things on social media, because when you see traumatic things on social media, then it's gonna like affect you. Do you know what I mean? And news as well. And once again, with everything going on, like I get why people are sharing it,
Mm,
but it does have negative effects on people, and
mm.
a lot of people don't realize that that is why they feel the way that they do, but it is why. Um, so yeah, other than sort of reducing my social media hours and like or like viewing on social media, shall I say it? Do you know what I mean? Just looking at the feed list or the timeline or whatever it is, or stories and stuff like that as much. Other than that, I would say one thing I've been doing is sort of trying to get back into the habit of meditating more and just
Mhm.
like, spending more time off my phone or having more self time for like self-care and stuff like that. So yeah.
And well, that kind of segues me into the next question, which is about obviously the venture that you started with Grandad AO, like the whole platform and stuff. And obviously that, from what I know from it, does have an element of self-care to it in that you enjoy doing it and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
what made you start the platform? What is it? Like what does it encompass? What you're trying to do? Like just tell me everything there is to know about Grandad AO as a product.
So as like a platform, um, the goal of it is partly to like empower people, if that makes sense. So obviously to do that, my approach is obviously like by creating videos, putting them out on YouTube, etc. And the content wise focuses on mental health, self-development, advice, motivation, mindfulness, and mindsets. Obviously, like self care sort of comes into that as well. Like it's an
Mm-hmm.
aspect of that I do cover. And obviously, the reason I did that, started it, was because, well, there's a couple of reasons. So some of the reasons is that like I was able to, by creating a platform for it, I'm able to reach people that I wouldn't be able to reach if I just sort of was just helping my friends, if that makes sense. Like, as much as, I could help my friends or the people around me that speak to me or open up to me about whatever it is going on or whatever, and I might be able to help them, etc. That isn't as effective, should I say, as putting it on the internet. Obviously, I'm always here for conversation, always up to talk to my friends, talk to people around me. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes people might not want to speak to me. Sometimes I might not be able to speak to people. Do you know what I mean? As in just distance and location wise, for example, technology or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? Like there's so many things. So by putting it on the internet, by creating videos, it now lives forever in a sense, so that it's always there. So you can now always go and watch that video over and over and over and over again. Do you know what I mean? And I'm always available for people who need to ask me stuff about, oh, I didn't understand this or whatever. So that is sort of the part of one of the reasons why I started it. And another reason why I started it was also because like I I believe the saying that, you can't change the world unless you change yourself, or whatever. I don't know what the original version is, but yeah. So like a lot of us want to like make the world a better place and everything, and that's like good. But in order to do that, we've got I don't want to say a lot of distance, but we've got areas in which we need to improve ourselves before we can improve other things, you know what I mean? To see the results that we want to see and make the changes that we want to see. So by me doing this, I feel like I'm able to help people do that. So then I can, in a way, I'm helping them change the world in whichever way they want to change it and stuff. Because as we've seen, a lot of change needs to happen in this world, you know what I mean? But unfortunately, we can't depend on other people to do it for us, as good as it is. But you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's sort of why I started.
And with that, like obviously you started it because you're trying to like do a good thing. You're trying to, put positive energy out there. You're trying to help people who need help. But do you ever feel like, because I've been like watching your videos for a while, and like obviously you're very consistent both on YouTube and on Instagram. And I don't follow you on Twitter, but I don't have Twitter, but you're probably consistent on there too. But like, does it ever get draining, or like, do you ever feel like, what's the word?
Burnt out.
A what?
Burnt out.
Yeah, like a demand. Like, for example, say you're doing a video about, you've been doing your self-discipline series recently. Say you're doing a video about that, but you're not feeling particularly disciplined at the time. Do you feel kind of like drained in having to then produce that content when you might not be feeling positive yourself, to try and then put positive energy out into the world?
Sort of, yeah. Like there's been times in general, especially when I'm producing content so regularly, like life happens, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm producing videos once a month and it's like, okay, if I'm not up to it this day or this week, I've still got, another 3 weeks or however long to produce content. It's like at some point this week I need to produce content if I haven't done it early. And there's been weeks where I've just been tired, I've been drained, or stuff has just been going on. And it's about sort of it's different things. Sometimes you just sort of fight through it, and I'll know that I'm tired, and it affects my videos. I try not to let it visibly affect my videos, but when I'm there speaking, like my memory goes if I'm tired and annoyed and my mind's on other things. You know what I mean? I can't remember exactly what I need to say, and I'm starting to stop and starting to stop it. So sometimes it does get draining. Even the promoting, sometimes it's like, it's only me who's promoting what I'm doing in a way, because obviously it's just me on the platform. So it's like, I got to make sure I promote it, send it around to everywhere, put it in the places it needs to be to sort of reach as many people as possible that I have the power to reach. And it's like, cool, that's 1 hour, that's 1 hour, that's 1 hour. Sometimes I can't be bothered to do stuff, but it's like, cool, I just have to push through it, fight through it, and in a way that's discipline. And sometimes it's like, for example, if I'm feeling tired, low, drained, or my head's in another place, sometimes it's like, I don't know how to fully explain it. It's something sort of called like state management, where I have to sort of lie to myself or trick myself into thinking I feel a certain way, or pretending I have energy, if that makes sense. So then I produce for that time, and it's good, but it is toxic at the same time, because you're not, feeling how you feel. You're sort of shoving it to the side for a time period. You know what I mean? If you do that, then it kind of builds up and stuff like that. So yeah, and there's been days sometimes with Instagram as well, because recently I'm not sure how long I've been doing it, posting every day on Instagram before, because sometimes I was doing 3 times a day, sometimes I was doing like 1 time a day or once a week or whatever. Sometimes it gets draining, sometimes it doesn't. It's sort of about, the more I plan and prepare in advance, the easier it is on me in the long run. And that goes the same with YouTube as well, where if I can film as many videos in one day as possible, edit as many videos, it is so much easier. Do you know what I mean? Because then it's like, if I'm not in the mood or other stuff is going on, then I'm not, like, if I do feel burnt out, then I've got time to rest, because it's not so, oh no, but you need to do this to stay consistent. You need to, you know what I mean? So yeah, I've definitely been there at times, and sometimes the feeling that, I'm doing all of this by myself, and even though people do help me and stuff, but in a way I feel like I'm carrying it all by myself in a way, doing everything all by myself, which I sort of have to do because it is me. It's not like I'm doing it with 5 other people, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like it is a bit of a weight, but for the most part, it is okay. And
Yeah.
I don't feel burnt out like that often, but it does happen.
Yeah. And so do you feel like there is a place where you can, because a lot of the people that I've been talking to do run these kind of things by themselves, and it does get very taxing, especially, you know, as Black people, you know, in a world where a lot of the time some certain opportunities, certain doors are closed for us, so you're fighting twice as hard a lot of the time. Is there a place where you do feel like you can, like, do you give yourself that time to just breathe, and like, if you actually are not up for it or whatever, do you feel supported in ways that you can actually, you know, get through it when you are feeling a bit down, or is it literally just a case of having to fight through it until you feel better again?
I think I'm not sure if I'm about to answer this right, but it's like sometimes I will, if I know that cool, like I might fight through it, or if I know that it's coming up to a time period and I haven't filmed and I need to film the day before, then edit and post the day before, which is very, very taxing.
Yeah.
Then like after that, after I've done like that hard bit, do you know what I mean? After I've gone through that hard taxing phase, then it's like, cool, I'm just, you know, I'm doing my belt, sitting on the sofa or not watching Netflix, you know what I mean? Though, like just relaxing and just cooling off, because one thing I learned, especially in quarantine, is that I can only like work like really hard 100% of the time at 100% for like 2 days in a row. So if I'm working like really hard for 2 days in a row, then after that third day, my brain I won't be able to concentrate at all. So unless I'm giving myself on a daily basis to, you know, take time out or go for a bike ride, something I've been doing lately, going for more meditations or just going out to read like in the park in the sun when it's nice weather or stuff like that. Just things that help me de-stress, whether it's even just listening to my favorite music in my room for 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just to enjoy myself and be happy. Those are the sort of moments where I well, not have to, but like I allow myself to just relax and just do whatever I want in a way, because you need those moments. Do you know what I mean? You need the balance there, even if it's not 50-50, you still need a balance there.
Yeah. And well, then in that, with all that said, where do you see your platform and what you've created? Where do you see that going, like in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? What is it that you're hoping to achieve with what you're doing?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. Because like today is actually 1 year since I posted my first video on
I
YouTube.
saw that. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So it's just like, you know, I've just taken a moment to actually appreciate how far I've already came.
Yeah.
It's weird because like nobody knows what can happen in it. So as much as I sometimes say, yeah, you should think long term, I see myself doing the same thing really.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's possible for me to maybe go into like secondary schools, possibly obviously after lockdown and stuff like that, and do talks to the people that really need to hear it. Just reach the people that I need to reach. Yeah, maybe doing some sort of mentoring. I'm not 100% sure yet about that. But yeah, just doing the same thing really. Producing content, empowering content that's gonna better people in some way, shape, or form. I might be producing more other content on the other side. I don't know. Whether it's just entertainment on another platform or something like that, or whether it's hair and beauty, for example. You know what I mean? But I see myself creating content at least in the same way. Like I plan to do this until I haven't got nothing more to say. Do you know what I mean? Until I feel like, you know, I've done
said
like,
everything.
I've run out of words. You know what I mean? I've already covered everything. I can't improve this. I can't, and I'm not in a cocky way, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
Anytime soon, at least. But you never know. So yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Like you say, like people always do need whether it's, you know, a 2-minute video or a 10-minute video, people do always need kind of guidance and being pointed kind of in the right direction. And it does always help when you have someone who is willing. I think the thing that impresses me the most about people who create content, especially your kind of content, is that it can get quite personal sometimes, where you're sharing an actual struggle that you've gone through in order to, you know, help other people get through that same thing. And not everyone can do that. Like, I know I wouldn't be able to just sit there and just talk about everything I've gone through in order, well, one-on-one maybe, but like the fact that you put that out there, and so that is something that I just really have a lot of respect for people who create that kind of content and people like you, because it's a difficult thing to do. But do you feel like it has a healing element to it? Do you feel as though, like, when you are creating this content, say you are talking about things that maybe you have struggled with, do you feel as though by putting it out there in the world, by speaking on it, you are kind of allowing yourself to heal or understand what you've gone through?
Definitely, because I like, I get what you're saying about being vulnerable in a way. Like, people that I sort of look up to that do similar things talk about being vulnerable, and transparency and stuff like that. So I do try it, and I do, as you said, do it in my videos, but I would never put something out there at which someone could sort of use against me in any way, if that makes sense. Someone that someone could say, oh, but blah 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 blah, or do you know what I mean? And it would actually hurt me. Maybe it might hurt a little bit, but it won't hurt me as such. Do you know what I mean? So once I put something out there, it's like, yo, you gotta let that go now. Do you know what I mean? Because that's in the internet for the whole world to see for the next 100 years. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not going anywhere now. And once you put it out there, you don't know who saved it, who's watched it, do you know what I mean? So yeah, once I put a video out there, if I haven't already like gotten over something, which for the most part, as far as I remember, I sort of have, but as you can see in some of my videos, I might be talking about something, I'm like, damn, like, even just talking about it sort of hurts me. It's like that talking about it once again helps me get over it even more. Yeah, definitely. So I do enjoy that.
So it's like a self-healing kind of process
sometimes. Yeah,
not all the time,
definitely. So yeah, because like, as much as I'm here helping other people, I'm also helping myself. And that's why in one of my videos, or one of my intro videos, I said, like, it's not a thing where I'm perfect and you're not, or do you know what I mean? I figured everything out. No, I'm growing with you guys.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So there might be some things that I think I've got figured out and you haven't, but there's still things out here that I'm learning. Do you know what I mean? And just as much as I might not talk about it yet, it's like I'm still learning as well.
Yeah. So when you say the growth don't stop, it applies to you as well.
Definitely.
And with what you've been doing, obviously you've been doing it for a year now. What would you say from this year that you've been doing it is one kind of like the most rewarding part of what you've been doing? And then on the flip side of that, what have you found to be the biggest struggle, the thing that's kind of been the hardest to deal with as you've been doing what you're doing?
Okay, so the rewarding part is when people message me. I get sometimes here and there like personal messages.
Yeah.
And it's always weird, because it's always, well, most of the time it's always when I start feeling like, oh, you know, maybe this isn't growing, maybe this isn't, you know what I mean? Start getting those self-doubt, right? So whenever that happens, I start getting a message at least about, yo, like, your videos are helping me, or yo, your videos really helped me with this and really helped me with that. Or someone say, yo, like, even someone that I sort of look up to said, yo, like, I implemented something that you know, that you've recommended, and it's helped me a lot, and I started seeing improvements, and I'm just like, wow, like, I'm happy, do you know what I mean, that I'm able to help you. And yeah, so on the flip side, the part that, what was it, how did you word it? What was
the thing that you've struggled with the most, or that's been the most challenging?
Most challenging, I would say comparing myself to other people and trying to compare myself to other people and number watching. Do you know what I mean? As much as it does tell you stuff by watching the numbers, like, it doesn't tell you how valuable your thing was to other people. It may be an indicator, but it doesn't tell you how useful that thing was for people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the thing I recommended to that person, that video could maybe have 3 views, right, and no likes. But if those 3 people have implemented that thing I recommended, and they said, yo, like this has changed my life around, blah, 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 it's really helping me with this, and I'm seeing improvement, I feel so much better, or whatever, then you can't tell that by watching, but I won't know, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I won't know that by looking at the numbers, only by, like, you won't know that unless people tell you.
Yeah.
So that's like the hardest thing, and not number watching and not comparing myself. And yeah, that's probably the hardest things. Yeah.
And touching on what you were saying about like number watching and comparing yourself, like obviously we really are the generation of like, you know, likes and clout and how many people are following you and who's reposted and who's reshared, and we are that generation where those things are kind of like what a lot of people use to determine how well they're doing and stuff. But obviously everyone that I've spoken to doing these interviews, most of the people are, you know, very much starting from scratch and maybe have 100 followers and you're getting 3 likes. So I've kind of been, I've been trying to kind of see how everyone kind of deals with the fact that we are in such a, we do live in a society that we are validated by, you know, those numbers. How do you kind of do it? Is it something you're still struggling with, or is it something that you've kind of learn to block out and just keep doing what you're doing? Like how do you deal with that as someone who is starting a venture from scratch? The fact that we live in such a validation seeking kind of clicks and likes and views kind of world.
It's between the two. So sometimes I promise you, if I post something and it doesn't get that many views, it doesn't get that many likes, I say F you, like as long as this video is useful to someone, I'm good. You know what I mean? And like, because you can never know why this video hasn't got likes, especially with all these algorithms and stuff like that. It might not even be your content that's bad, for example. It might be that the algorithm has just bumped you. You might have mislabeled something, and because you mislabeled it, it's not showing it to the right people. Do you know what I mean? Like there's so many little bits of like metadata, for example, and it's Instagram just messing up the algorithm. Do you know what I mean? So many things that, so it's just like, yeah, I just F you, like as long as this video is good, I put my heart into this video. I know this video is good enough. And today it might have 20 views, but in 5, 10 years, even, like that video would have helped countless people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, and yeah, just ignoring the numbers really, and knowing that it is valuable to people and it is actually useful to people.
Yeah.
Because I get, once again, that numbers can be an indicator of that, but you don't know. So you just have to trust in your own instincts and ask yourself, is this like, why do you think this video hasn't done so well? Is it that, you know, maybe it isn't, maybe it's self-centered and you're not actually giving any value to people? Like maybe nobody, not on the video, nobody cares about that topic. Do you know what I mean? Like if I did a story time about whatever and it got literally what happened and got like 20 views, it was just not that many people are interested in that thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you live and you learn and you move forward. You know what I mean? So yes, I just see it as cool. You know, mostly ignoring it and just going forward, because yeah, most of the time I would say it's probably just algorithms just, you know what I mean, doing their thing. So yeah, like yeah. Sorry, I know I'm going on, but it's like I know that as my platform grows, for example, God willing, as long as while my platform grows, the views on this video and the likes of this content are going to grow with it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like people will tell me, I might have put out a video and it might not have got that many views, but now if, for example, I don't know, 6 months down the line, that video is slowly growing with my content and everything else, because someone might watch one of my videos and say, wow, I want to watch the next 10 videos, and they might love that video and everyone else does that. Do you know what I mean? So it is, yeah.
And I think also one of the best answers I think I've heard is just about how for a lot of us we're just trying to do something that makes a difference, whether that's impacting one person or 1 million people. Like it's not about the fact that it's not reached 100 million people. We just want to see that
that's what I'm
impact.
saying. That's how you have to say F the likes. As long as it helps someone, I'm good. Or as long as I feel good about putting this out, then I'm good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in today's kind of political climate, obviously it's a very hard time to be Black right now. Do you feel as though what you're doing with the Grandad AO platform is a form of activism in a way? Like, do you feel as though you're making a statement by occupying the space that you're occupying, or is it more just this isn't a political thing, I'm literally just doing my thing and it has not?
It kind of is, because in a way, like I've done a video about black on black crime, for like the term black on black crime, right? And that's a very, for whatever reason, political thing, and I'm just educating people about why they shouldn't say the term black on black crime. And there's stuff like that where, because even if I do have a small platform, it is still a platform, and I can educate people with that platform, so now they can go out and educate more people. And one of the things I see today, well, not see, but one of the things is that there's not that many positive Black role models around in the spotlight anyway. So obviously there's countless amazing Black men, males around on this earth, right? But you don't really hear from them, you don't see them on social media, there's not really the influence, and it leads to people getting influenced by, not to be condescending, but by not necessarily the best influences, right? For example, a lot of people are influenced by rappers, and as bad, not as fine as that is, not everyone should look up to rappers and athletes, for example, and be influenced, because like the world is so much bigger than that, and there's so many different people than that. But the Black male influences just aren't there on the internet, talking to people, talking to the younger generation, talking to their generation like that. Do you know what I mean? So that's one thing that I sort of realized as well, which is also why I've done this, because that way I'm sort of able to be a positive Black male influence on whoever helps me with my videos. You know what I mean? So even if it's my age mate, even if it's people that are older than me, sort of look up to me or just listen to me, I'm a positive influence on their life in a way, not to be vain about it, but do you know what I mean? Yeah, if I'm putting out a positive message, then I'm happy about that, and I can influence them to do a more, have a more positive impact on the world, because not all of these influences are the best influences. And I'm not saying I'm the best, but you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So you feel as though you're countering a lot of the kind of generic stereotypes. Because there's nothing wrong with rappers, athletes, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly,
but you feel as though you're kind of countering and allowing kind of like, obviously, Black males to see themselves in a bit more of a vulnerable setting, in a bit more of a,
vulnerable, and just see that there's more to life than the typical on the TV sort of options, because these narratives that, if you're Black, you can only be an athlete, or you can only be a rapper or music, or do you know what I mean? If you're a Black man, then these are the things, or you're a criminal. Those are the narratives that you pretty much see on TV, right? And that's something I'm really trying to sort of break and slowly chip away at, and just influence people away from those things, or not even influence away from them, because not all of them are, other than obviously being a criminal is a bad thing, but make them feel comfortable knowing that there's more options, because those things aren't for everybody. But a lot of people, go through these problems just because they've never had anyone else to look up to. So
trying to counter that and provide a different type of role model.
A different voice, different role model, different person, because not everybody can relate to everything. Do you know what I mean? Everyone else. So and that's another thing. Sorry to like ramble on, but like when you
so not just countering that, but also what?
When you sort of search for advice, life advice, you look at meditation or self-help, self-improvement, anything, even motivation, sort of anything that I cover, you don't see that many Black faces. on the internet, and it's annoying because why is there not? And
Yeah.
I don't know if there are people out there doing it, but they're just not being shown on the internet. But clearly there should be more. Do you know what I mean? So, and the thing is, when you don't see someone that you relate to, you're already disengaged. You start thinking, oh, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Maybe this isn't the sort of thing that I should be even looking at, etc. And that's not true. Do you know what I mean? So it's also, you know, breaking that sort of narrative and just being another role model of bringing, I don't know, it's creating representation within the sort of self-help advice, that sort of industry. Because as I believe that there are obviously black male faces out there, but there's not that many.
Yeah.
So there's not enough. So yeah.
And with that being said, then, because obviously what you're talking about is kind of like essentially creating spaces for Black people within these existing spaces. How do you feel then about the fact that a lot of the pushes for us to create spaces that are, you know, Black spaces, a lot of that energy has been met with people saying, you know, this is counterproductive to the movement. You're saying you want equality, and then you're isolating yourselves by creating these Black spaces and these Black movements and these Black projects. How do you kind of respond to that response of us wanting to create these spaces where we didn't feel included or recognized or present in one space, and then we go off to create our own spaces, but then it's met with people saying, well, you're fighting for equality, why are you going off? How do you kind of sit with that argument?
The reason we're creating our own spaces is because there's not a equal representation in the current spaces, and it is very hard to create space in a place that wasn't really meant for you, if that makes sense. Creating space in places that, you know what I mean, wasn't meant for you. Obviously, it is very specific to the situation.
Yeah.
But to go around, the thing is, we've been trying to do that for so long, and it hasn't been working. So we need a new approach, and that's why sometimes it's like separation isn't the same as segregation.
Yeah.
So it's good. I believe that it's good for us to have separation and to create these spaces for ourselves so that we can grow at our own speed, at our own pace, with our own positive initiatives, or what it's called, but agendas, shall I say, whereas other people might get involved and have their own agendas. And once again, if we're when we're in other environments, you tend to see, obviously it depends what these white savior characters, etc., sort of popping up. Do you know what I'm saying? So we don't need any of that, and we don't really want that. We just want our own space so we can do us and be equal to catch up. That's the way I see it.
You essentially feel as though it's vital for the Black community to advance the way we want to advance. You feel that it's vital for us to have the space to do that within the community and not necessarily be hindered by the agendas that other people may have against us.
Definitely, because we've seen it before. We've been seeing it where, you know, we try to do things all together, and there's nothing wrong with that, but because we don't have our own, when the group situation messes up, we have nothing to fall back on, if that makes sense as well. Yeah. And there's no foundation there for us, which is why it's important for us to separate at these situations, in order to create the actual equality. Because otherwise, why is there not already equality in these spaces? These spaces have been around for however long now, 30 years at least, if not 70 years, 100, maybe 100, maybe not 100, but you get what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah.
And do you feel then that within the kind of industry that you're trying to grow in, the kind of like, you know, well-being, motivation, content creation industry, do you feel as though being Black has hindered you in any way? Do you feel like it's created obstacles in any way?
It's funny because my friend Natalie was speaking about this, where she's a fitness influencer, and the fitness industry is mostly dominated by white girls, or just white people anyway. But a lot of people see that as a disadvantage, but she saw it as an opportunity because of her, like, just literally just a change in perspective, right? Saying that clearly this is needed in the industry. So it's like, hey, maybe the only way it might have be a disadvantage to me is that, you know, someone's racist, or someone has some form of racism. They see a black face on this type video that they need, and because it's a black person, they don't watch the video. But other than that, I don't see it as a disadvantage. I see it as an advantage because there's a lack of people doing it already, and clearly there's an opportunity and there's a space, there's a need for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity in a way, for me to do some real good and to do some real help. Because if I'm going into an industry where it was already dominated, or not dominated, but there was already equality and there was already loads of black people and black creators doing exactly the same thing, which there's nothing wrong with doing that. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't affect me, but it's like, okay, I'm not necessarily affecting people in the same way that I probably am now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like it's that kind of, and I'd be interested to know what you think about this, because I remember when a lot of this, when all the Black Lives Matter stuff started kicking up and kind of like, you know, growing back in May, was it? I can't remember.
Yeah.
But earlier in the year, when all that stuff started growing, I remember hearing someone say that as Black people, especially in Western countries, as Black people, we don't have the option of being apolitical. We have to be politically conscious because our very presence is a political statement. And when you're saying stuff like, well, in this industry, you know, I'm making a difference and I'm, you know, doing something that might not be done before. It's the same with the other day I saw, you know, I forgot who it was, but someone was the first Black person to do something. And everyone was saying in 2020, like there's the burden to be the first Black person to do something, or the burden to be a Black person in a space where you know that there probably aren't a lot of Black people. Sometimes you do want to give up on certain things, but I know, for example, myself, one of the only reasons, well, I do like architecture, but one of the only reasons that I'm still here is because a lot of the time I'll tell myself, well, there are Black children who need to see a Black female architect in a space that's dominated by men. So do you feel like that kind of sometimes becomes a burden on us as a people, where a lot of the time we kind of we don't have the option of giving up as easily just because our presence is needed a lot of time in these spaces?
Yeah, because a lot of people that let's just say their existence isn't political in the same way that our Blackness is political, like they're able to sort of just stop things when they want. It doesn't really affect any other people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
An example of this is Shea Moisture. So as a Black product, a lot of people are relying on them to, you know, supply them Black-owned hair products. And they sold their business back in, I remember actually hearing about this when this happened. This happened back in 2017, I believe, probably around 2017, 2016. And it was just like, even though to them, it might have just been a business, but to the community, that was someone that that's a product that they could rely on, that they knew was made with their
best interest.
Yeah, with their best interest in mind. Whereas now, who it's been sold to doesn't care about the quality, and they just, you know, want to save money or whatever. Do you know what I mean? They can do whatever they want. And now it's like, that's one less Black hair product that people can depend on. And even though some people might be watching this and thinking, oh, that's just about hair. Now, imagine you want to talk about banks, for example. We're going to talk about banks. Imagine there's no Black-owned banks, for example. And back when banks were doing all this redlining, all of this racism, like literally, if you were Black, I've done research on this, you was less likely to get a loan for the same same conditions of White counterparts and even Asian counterparts as well. Right? Imagine now you're a bank and then you sell your bank. All the Black people that were with you and that were bank dependent on you to get their fair treatment, etc., can no longer do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
I think it just makes me realize more that because we're in such a position where, and you've literally just cemented that kind of statement of like, we don't have the option of not being politically minded, because you, like you say, in the instance of like shea butter and like black banks and stuff, even if you don't want to keep that thing anymore, we always have to think about the community. We have to think about the bigger impacts of everything else.
And that's pressure.
Yeah. And
that's
it's
pressure.
draining.
That's weight on your shoulders.
Yeah. Because like, for example, like I believe it was you I was having this conversation with, for example, with Dr. Dre selling off beats and him probably just wanting to make his quick paycheck like everyone else. He just wanted to make his money. But unfortunately, the added pressure of being a Black person makes it, for us as a community, that was a big hit, because that's no longer a Black owned enterprise, and it's no longer, you know, a Black person as the face of that. So yeah, I feel like it's a pressure is on us that isn't on other people, which is a lot to deal with. And I think it can be burdensome knowing that even if you want to give up on certain things, sometimes you don't have the option.
Definitely.
So yeah, I feel as though it definitely would be that kind of situation. Obviously you enjoy content creating and you like what you're doing, but at the same time, because you, like you're saying, you are in a space that there aren't a lot of Black males in that space, there is probably a part of you that knows that you can't stop doing what you're doing almost. And that being said, then what would you have to say to any young Black people who are watching this and they just want to, they're looking at you and they're thinking, I want to content create, that sounds like an interesting thing to do, or that just want to do something a little bit different, something a little bit out of the box? What advice would you have to young Black people who also want to kind of do what it is that you're doing?
If it makes you happy, if it makes you feel fulfilled, and obviously it's not gonna take away from like your responsibilities if you have any, then why not just do it? Do you know what I mean? Like, go for it. The worst that can happen is that you start, you try, and you come to a realization, not like having doubts, but like a firm realization that, oh, this isn't for me or whatever, then cool, you can take it off. But until you try it and you start, even if it's hard, because when I started, I didn't know how to speak on camera. I wasn't comfortable. I couldn't really remember what I wanted to say. I'd be saying every couple of seconds in my videos and stuff like that. And it didn't look great. It was really ugly, but you know, the growth don't stop. And now I'm not perfect. There's still a couple but like I'm so much comfortable speaking on camera. You hear the you get what I'm saying though? Like, you will grow, you will improve, and it will get there eventually. You know, just be patient and do what makes you feel fulfilled. I was speaking to someone about this the other day, and I realized like, it's not the validation of doing it you should be seeking, it's your own fulfillment. So yeah, someone actually told me that the other day, and I was like, damn, like that makes sense, and that's good. Like,
that's a nice line. I'm probably gonna see that on one of your videos or something soon.
Yeah, give me some time to internalize it, you know.
But I think that's really good advice. As long as it's not illegal and it makes you happy, do it.
Yeah, and as long as it's not at the detriment of other people like that, like directly at the detriment of other people, why not do it?
Yeah.
Like, why would you not at least try? Because until you try, you won't know.
Yeah, which I think is great advice, and that is a great way to end the interview.
And you don't need to spend a whole load of money up front to start, by the way, just say it. Because I know a lot of people think that you need to spend all this money on the best camera, on the best editing software, do you know what I mean? Or even like a decent, you really don't. You can use like there's just research cheap ways to start content creating.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that actually holds a lot of people back. They think, oh, you know, I've got to learn how to do this. I've got to save up money for this and that and that and that. Like, a lot of people think that they need an Apple Mac to do YouTube, for example. I'm telling you, like, these things are here. I'm telling you. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good one, because I definitely can see a lot of people just being put off just because you usually see, don't you, like the kind of influencer status people, that's the content that you see, and obviously that is done on like expensive equipment and stuff, which and I think that is kind of money and capitalism, and the kind of capitalization of ventures is what has scared a lot of people into doing stuff, because everyone just thinks that it's going to cost a leg and an arm to do something that they want to do.
Yeah.
So I think that that's actually the first financial advice I've heard in these interviews. So that was a good bit of advice, and I think a great way to end the interview. I have enjoyed this interview. I'd have enjoyed talking to you, hearing what you think.
Thank you.
And I obviously, you know, I'm here for your platform. I really love what you're trying to do. Always supporting you in any way I can. And I just, like I'm saying to everyone with these, everyone I've chosen to do these interviews with is someone I'm rooting for, because everyone who's doing this is really, it takes a lot right now as a Black person to continue to try and prove that you deserve something and that you're special in a world that's telling you that you're not. So I really commend you and what you do and what you're trying to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Right, so that is the end of this interview. I hope you have a great evening, and thank you for taking your time to do this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me so much.
No problem.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem.
All right, cool. Peace.
Bye.